Make sure to like and subscribe if you believe respect isn't about someone's job, but about what they've been through, especially those who wore the uniform with pride even after the world forgot their names. He walked the academy halls like a shadow, quiet, unnoticed, and often ignored. Every morning, before the first cadet even opened his eyes, the old man in the grey janitor uniform had already started his shift. No name tag, just a quiet presence marked by age and quiet strength. His wrinkled face, the tired way he carried himself, and the faded cap with the word "retired" stitched above a patch that few ever looked at, said more than words could. At West Burbridge Military Training Academy, excellence was a given, and arrogance was part of the culture. The recruits came from wealthy neighborhoods and military families, kids with spotless records and shining boots, eager to lead before they'd even learned how to salute. They walked those halls with their heads high, like they were already part of history. And him? He was just the janitor, the one who wiped their muddy footprints off the polished floor and emptied trash cans full of their half-finished coffees and egos. Some laughed at him, not all, but enough to make it matter. They'd elbow each other when he walked by, cracking jokes just loud enough for him to hear. One called him Sergeant Mop. Another asked if he'd gotten lost on the way to the VA hospital. They thought they were being funny. They thought he was just some harmless old man. And because he never said a word, because he kept sweeping the floor with the same steady pace every day, they mistook his silence for weakness. But it wasn't weakness, it was something else, something they didn't understand yet. A week before the Academy's big annual event, things got worse. The cafeteria was loud with late breakfast talk when one of the cockier cadets, a second year named Landon, full of charm and attitude, knocked his tray over on purpose just as the old man walked by. Eggs, toast, and orange juice hit the floor like a mission gone wrong.
"Oops," Landon said loudly, grinning so everyone could hear. "Looks like we got a mess, soldier." The way he said soldier made people laugh. The old man didn't react. He looked at the mess, nodded, and started cleaning. No words, no eye contact. The noise in the room grew, fueled by his quietness. Other cadets joined in, tossing napkins, spilling coffee. One even dropped a banana peel like it was some kind of joke. But the old man kept working, slowly, steadily, like none of it bothered him, like he'd seen worse. Because he had. But they didn't know that. To them, he was just the guy with the broom in a place filled with medals and ranks, forgotten by the very system he might have once served. And maybe that's what hurt the most, how easy it is to forget, how fast people move on once the cameras are off, once the parades are over and the medals are shut away in drawers, how someone can give everything to their country and still be treated like they never mattered, by the very ones meant to carry on that legacy. No one asked his name. No one wondered why he walked with a limp, or why he sometimes stared a little too long at the Academy's wall of honor, lined with portraits of heroes who had changed history through courage and sacrifice. Now and then, his eyes would stop on one photo in particular. A black and white picture of a young officer standing in a sandstorm, hand raised in a salute, dust swirling all around like a memory of war. He would stop there just long enough to catch his breath, then keep moving. That whole week, the disrespect seemed to grow, like something was building. Maybe it was the upcoming symposium, maybe it was stress, or maybe it was just how easy it is to pick on quiet people when no one is paying attention. One night, someone left a fake job application on his janitor card. It was printed from a prank website, an application for a senior custodial commander. Under skills, someone had scribbled MOPFU and advanced trash deployment. Still, the old man didn't say a word. He folded the paper, put it in his pocket, and went on with his work. But what they didn't know, what never even crossed their minds, was that he didn't need their approval. A long time ago, in places they couldn't even imagine, he had earned something far deeper than their fake praise. Something they couldn't see because they hadn't lived long enough to understand it. A kind of respect that doesn't come from medals or speeches, but from silence, from sacrifice,
from making it through when others didn't. While they slept, he cleaned. While they joked, he remembered. He remembered the names of every soldier who never made it back. He remembered what sand feels like in your teeth when bullets are flying, and how quiet can feel louder than gunfire when the mission is over. He remembered orders, battle plans, and the lives he had lived, not just by duty, but with honor. The academy was filled with tradition, but it had lost touch with its roots. In chasing greatness, it had forgotten humility, and no one, not even the instructors, seemed to notice. Not until the day the general arrived, but that's a part of the story still to come. For now, this is what matters. They called him a janitor, they laughed at him, mocked him, never once wondering who he really was, but they were about to find out that true rank isn't something you wear, it's something you earn. And sometimes the quietest man in the room has lived the loudest life. It was the morning of the symposium, an event circled in red on every cadet's calendar. Uniforms were sharp, boots polished, medals shining like mirrors. The Academy's grand hall, usually reserved for important events, was buzzing with nerves. This wasn't just another ceremony. This year's speaker was a legend, 4-star General Marcus Denning, a man known for leading elite missions across the world and shaping some of the military's top leaders. To say everyone was nervous would be putting it lightly. Cadets sat in straight rows, backs stiff, fixing their uniforms for the 100th time. Officers lined the walls with clipboards and radios, checking every detail. Everything had to be perfect. Just outside the grand hall, a few minutes before the event, the old janitor moved down the hallway with his cart. Same slow steps, same broom. But today, he moved even slower. At the end of the hall, he stopped. He adjusted the brim of his retired cap and looked toward the ceremony room, where voices echoed and chairs scraped across the floor. His eyes stayed there for a moment. Inside, the room went quiet as the double doors opened. General Denning walked in. He was the kind of man you couldn't ignore, tall, calm, and serious, like a storm you didn't dare disturb. He moved like someone who had lived through history and helped shape it. Everyone stood, salutes snapped, cameras clicked. The general nodded once, his face unreadable. But instead of heading straight to the stage like everyone expected, General Denning did something no one saw coming. He walked past the podium, past the rows of officers, past the perfectly posed cadets, and headed straight toward the man standing quietly in the hallway. Everyone watched him. The room fell completely silent as General Denning stopped in front of the janitor. He looked the older man in the eyes and gave a sharp, formal salute. Not a single person moved. No one even breathed. Then, in a calm voice, just loud enough for those nearby, he said, "Sir, it's an honor to finally meet you." Gasps spread through the room like sparks on dry grass. He said, "Sir." The janitor blinked, slowly raised his hand and returned the salute. No flash, no drama, just a quiet, precise motion, the kind you only get right after years of doing it where mistakes can mean death. Then General Denning turned to face the crowd. "Before I begin my speech," he said, "I want to recognize someone in this building. Someone who's impacted more lives than I ever will. A man who led soldiers into combat before most of you were even born. A leader whose actions saved my life and the lives of 212 others during Operation Goliath." Voices stirred in the back. Murmurs rippled across the rows. Operation Goliath, a mission still mostly secret. The general went on. "His name isn't on any wall here. No wings or rooms carry his name, but they should. You call him the janitor. I knew him as Commander Elias Raw." It was as if the room had lost all its air. Some cadets looked stunned. Some looked embarrassed. Landon, the same one who dropped the tray days ago, stood frozen, his face pale. Raw. That name was more than familiar. It had shown up in whispered stories, hidden reports, and rumors in blacked-out mission briefings. Some thought he was a ghost, others knew better. General Denning turned back to him. "Sir, I've waited years to thank you. You saved us. You gave more than anyone could have asked. And these cadets, our future leaders, they deserve to know who you really are." Elias didn't smile. He didn't straighten his back or say something clever. He just nodded like he'd known this moment was coming. Not because he needed it, but because truth eventually finds its way out. The cadets didn't know what to do. Some stood awkwardly, others sank into their chairs. A few started to realize how many times they had laughed at him, ignored him, treated him like he didn't matter. It hit hard. Then Elias stepped forward. No microphone, no spotlight. But the general asked gently, "Would you say something, sir?" Elias hesitated, then looked across the room at the young recruits who once judged him, the instructors who had stayed silent, and the walls that told history without his name on it. Finally, he said, "I'll speak. Not for me, but for the ones who never made it home." The room went completely still. You could hear the tick of a watch. Cadets who used to roll their eyes at him now listened like their lives depended on it. Elias Raw, the quiet janitor, took a step forward. "I've seen young men break under pressure. I've seen leaders fall, not because they were weak, but because they lacked humility. I didn't come back with pride. I came back carrying ghosts. I didn't return to be honored. I came back to stay close to what I loved, even if the world forgot me." He didn't cry. He didn't raise his voice. He just spoke the kind of truth you don't find in textbooks or field manuals. He spoke of the mission no one discussed, the soldiers whose names never made the plaques, and the real cost of leadership. What happens when the noise stops but the memories stay? Some cadets wiped away tears. Even a few instructors shifted uncomfortably, realizing they'd allowed too much silence around disrespect. Then he finished. No grand speech, no request for applause, just silence. But what followed was something no one expected. The cadet who had knocked over the tray stood slowly. His chest was tight with shame. He looked Elias in the eye. "Sir," he said, "I'm sorry. I didn't know, but that's no excuse." Elias gave a small nod, nothing more. Then another cadet stood, and another. Soon every person in the room was on their feet. No one clapped. They saluted. One by one, in total silence, 200 future officers saluted the man they once ignored. General Denning didn't interrupt. He stepped aside. And in that quiet moment, Elias Raw, the forgotten janitor, wasn't just respected. He was remembered. Without a word, he turned and walked back down the hallway. Same old push broom, same quiet steps, like nothing had changed, but everything had, because respect isn't about titles. It isn't just a uniform. And it's not about telling war stories. It's about how you carry yourself when no one's watching, and how you treat those who carry the weight of sacrifice. If you believe no veteran should ever be forgotten, share this story.